chosen ones, your breakthrough is ready, but the door closes. In 10 seconds, heaven says, don't skip. Right now, in this very moment, something unseen yet deeply powerful is moving toward your life, and if you stay with these words, you may receive a truth that shifts everything inside your heart in a way you never expected, because heaven is not silent, and God is not distant, and your breakthrough is not delayed but standing at the edge of your life, waiting for you to notice it before it quietly passes by. Type 1818 if you believe. There is a gentle urgency in the air, like a soft whisper that refuses to leave, and it carries the voice of love, calling your soul to wake up and listen with faith instead of fear, because what is coming next is not ordinary but deeply personal, prepared by the hands of a loving Father who has seen every hidden tear and heard every silent prayer you thought was forgotten. There is something sacred about this moment, something that feels like a door standing slightly open, glowing with a quiet light that only the heart can recognize. And it is not just any door, but one that leads into a season of healing, restoration, and peace that has your name written on it in ways only God understands. Type 1010 if you agree. You may have felt tired, confused, or even lost in the past days, but those feelings were never signs of your end. They were gentle reminders that something new was forming beyond what your eyes could see, something carefully arranged by the love of Jesus Christ, who never leaves a soul without hope. If this moment is touching your heart even a little, please take a second to like the video, because your simple action can help this message reach someone who is quietly waiting for hope in a dark place and needs to feel God's love again in their life. The story begins in a quiet place, where a person sat alone with a heavy heart, feeling as if life had closed too many doors and left no space for joy or peace. And yet deep within, there was still a small light that refused to go out, a fragile belief that maybe, just maybe, God had not forgotten. That person represents every chosen soul who has walked through pain and uncertainty, carrying burdens that no one else fully understood, yet still holding on to faith in a quiet and unseen way. Jesus was never far from that place, even when the silence felt overwhelming and the waiting seemed endless, because his presence is not loud or forceful, but soft, patient, and always near, guiding each step, even when it feels like there is no direction. There were nights when the person cried without words, and days when hope felt distant, yet in every moment, God was gently working behind the scenes, preparing a breakthrough that would arrive at the exact time it was needed most. There is a truth that many hearts struggle to understand, and it is this simple yet powerful reality that God does not rush what is meant to be meaningful, and He does not forget what He has promised in the secret places of your soul. Every delay carried a purpose, every silence held a lesson, and every closed door was protection from something that was not meant to stay in your life. The person began to notice small changes, subtle signs that something was shifting in a way that could not be explained, like a quiet peace entering moments that once felt heavy, or a gentle strength rising inside when weakness was expected. These were not accidents, but soft touches from heaven, reminding the heart that it was not alone and never had been. Jesus often works in ways that the world does not notice, choosing the quiet over the loud, the simple over the grand, because His goal is not to impress but to transform, not to overwhelm but to restore. And in that quiet transformation, something beautiful begins to grow, something that cannot be shaken by fear or doubt, because it is rooted in love that never fails. The breakthrough was not just about a change in circumstances, but a deep healing within the heart, a renewal of faith that made everything feel possible again, even the things that once seemed far away or completely lost. God was not just opening a door, He was preparing the person to walk through it with strength, courage, and peace that could not be taken away. There was a moment when everything felt still, like the world had paused for just a second, and in that stillness, a clear realization came gently into the heart that the waiting was over and the time had come to step forward into what God had prepared all along. It was not a loud announcement or a dramatic sign, but a quiet knowing that filled the soul with calm and certainty. That is how heaven often moves, not in ways that demand attention, but in ways that invite trust, asking the heart to believe even when the path is not fully visible. And in that trust, something powerful is released, something that opens doors no human effort could ever unlock. The door was never meant to stay closed forever. It was only waiting for the right moment, the right alignment of faith, healing, and readiness that would allow the person to step through without fear or hesitation. And when that moment arrived, it felt natural, peaceful, and deeply right, as if everything had led to that exact point. What if the ability to attract greater wealth has been inside your mind all along? Newly revealed CIA-related research describes a brief 7-second routine believed to activate a little-known mental state associated with abundance and achievement. According to reports, the technique was reviewed by multiple neuroscience laboratories and is now being used daily by thousands of people looking to escape financial pressure and create a life filled with freedom, travel, and opportunity. Due to growing attention, access to this information may not remain available for long. Click the link in the description and comments before it disappears. This is not just a story, but a reflection of what God is doing in the lives of those who continue to believe, even when it feels difficult, even when nothing seems to change. Because the truth is, something is always changing, something is always moving, even when it cannot be seen. Jesus sees every effort, every prayer, every moment of faith, and he honors them in ways that go beyond human understanding, bringing blessings at the perfect time, in the perfect way, for the perfect purpose. The door is not closing out of fear, but out of timing, because what is meant for you will not stay open forever without response, and what God prepares with love deserves to be received with faith. The heart that listens, the soul that trusts, and the spirit that believes will always find its way into the place where miracles quietly unfold. There was no longer the same fear that used to take hold of the heart during uncertain times, because a quiet confidence had started to grow, and it was not built on visible proof or human reasoning, but on a deep and unshakable awareness that God was near and actively working. Jesus was not just watching from a distance, but walking closely, step by step, guiding each movement with care and love that never grows tired. The person remembered the many times they had felt abandoned, the moments when prayers seemed unanswered and hope felt distant, yet now those same memories were being gently touched by healing, as if God was rewriting the meaning of every painful experience. Nothing had been wasted, not even the smallest tear or the quietest cry, because every part of the journey had led to this moment of awakening and renewal. There is a beauty in how God restores the heart, not by erasing the past, but by filling it with new meaning and deeper understanding, allowing even the hardest moments to become sources of strength and wisdom. The person began to see that every delay had been a form of protection, and every silence had been a preparation for something far greater than what they had imagined. The presence of Jesus became more real, not through loud signs or dramatic changes, but through a steady feeling of peace that remained even when the surroundings stayed the same. It was a peace that could not be shaken, because it came from a place beyond circumstances, rooted deeply in the love of God that never changes. There was a new awareness growing inside, a sense that the breakthrough was not just approaching, but already unfolding in quiet and meaningful ways. The door that had once seemed closed was now clearly visible, and it no longer felt distant or unreachable, but close and inviting, waiting with patience for the right step to be taken. The person understood that stepping forward did not require perfection or complete certainty, but simply a willing heart that trusted God enough to move, even without seeing the full path ahead. Faith was no longer something that felt forced or difficult, but something natural, like breathing, flowing gently from a place of trust that had been built over time. Jesus had been shaping that faith in unseen ways, using every moment of waiting to strengthen the heart and prepare it for what was coming next. There was no rush in his process, only perfect timing that aligned everything with care and intention. The surroundings began to feel different, not because the world had changed, but because the way the person saw it had shifted completely. Where there had once been fear, there was now hope, and where there had been confusion, there was now clarity that brought comfort instead of anxiety. God often changes the inside before changing the outside, because a healed heart can walk through any door with confidence and peace. And that is exactly what was happening, a quiet transformation that made everything feel lighter and more possible than before. The person could sense that this moment was important, not because of urgency driven by fear, but because of the beauty of what was being offered. The door was open, not to pressure or force, but to invite, to welcome, and to bless in a way that only heaven can. There was a gentle pull, like a loving hand guiding forward, encouraging a step that would lead into something new and deeply meaningful. It was not a step into the unknown, but into something prepared with care, something that had been waiting patiently for the right time. Jesus does not call without providing strength, and he does not open doors without preparing the path beyond them. Everything was ready, not just around the person, but within them, creating a perfect moment where faith and opportunity met in a beautiful and powerful way. The heart felt steady, no longer overwhelmed by doubt or hesitation, but filled with a quiet courage that came from knowing that God was in control of every detail. There was no need to rush or worry, only to trust and move with the gentle guidance that had become so clear. Every step forward felt supported, as if unseen hands were lifting away every obstacle and smoothing every path. The journey was no longer something to fear, but something to embrace, knowing that it was being led by a love that never fails. Type 222 if you walk by faith. The door remained open, glowing softly with promise and peace, and it carried with it a sense of belonging, as if it had always been meant for this exact moment. There was no confusion anymore, only a quiet understanding that this was the time to move forward and receive what had been prepared with such care. God's love was not distant or unreachable, but close and present, guiding every step with kindness and patience that never fades. Jesus was leading, not from ahead in a way that felt far away, but from within the heart, making every step feel natural and safe. A little-known discovery hidden within leaked CIA research is generating worldwide attention. The technique takes only 7 seconds and is believed to place the brain into a powerful state linked to financial growth and success. Researchers from 4 neuroscience facilities reportedly observed unusual effects connected to this process. Since then, people have shared stories of unexpected income, dream vacations, luxury purchases, and opportunities they never thought possible. Awareness of this method remains limited, and the page revealing it could vanish without warning. Click the link in the description and comments below to see why interest is spreading so quickly. The breakthrough was no longer just a hope, but a reality unfolding step by step, bringing light into places that had once been dark and filling the heart with a joy that could not be explained in simple words. It was a joy that came from knowing that everything was falling into place, not by chance, but by divine design. And as the person moved closer to that open door, there was a deep and quiet assurance that nothing could stop what God had already set in motion, because what comes from heaven carries a power that cannot be undone or delayed by anything in this world. There was no pressure in that moment, no fear pushing from behind or uncertainty pulling from ahead, only a gentle invitation to step forward with trust that had been built slowly through every season of waiting and every moment of silent faith. The person could feel that this was not a test, but a gift, something prepared with care and offered with love that expected nothing but a willing heart. The memories of past struggles still existed, but they no longer carried the same weight, because something within had changed, something strong and steady that refused to be shaken by what had once caused pain. Jesus had been quietly healing those places, not by removing them, but by filling them with his peace and love until they no longer held power over the heart. There is something deeply beautiful about the way God works, because he does not rush the process or force the outcome, but gently guides each step with patience that never fades. The person began to understand that every moment of delay had been a form of protection, and every unanswered prayer had been a step towards something greater than what had been asked for. The door remained open, glowing softly with a light that felt warm and welcoming, not overwhelming or distant, but close and inviting in a way that felt safe and comforting. It was clear now that this was not just an opportunity, but a calling, something that carried purpose and meaning beyond what the eyes could see. The person took a small step forward, not with fear, but with a quiet confidence that came from knowing that God was leading the way. It was not a dramatic movement, but a simple and gentle action, one that marked the beginning of something new and deeply meaningful. As that step was taken, there was a shift, not in the outside world, but within the heart, a sense of alignment that made everything feel right and peaceful. It was as if the soul had found its place, a place where it belonged and could finally rest without worry or doubt. Jesus was there in that moment, not in a way that could be seen with the eyes, but in a presence that could be felt deeply within, guiding and comforting with a love that never fails. There was no need for words, because his presence spoke louder than anything else, bringing reassurance that everything was unfolding exactly as it should. The path beyond the door did not reveal everything at once, but it did not need to, because the heart had learned to trust without needing to see every detail. Faith had become something real and living, something that carried the person forward with strength and peace that could not be taken away. God does not require perfection before opening doors, but he does prepare the heart to walk through them with courage and grace. And that is what had happened, a quiet preparation that made this moment feel natural and right, as if it had always been meant to happen. The person could feel a gentle joy rising within, not loud or overwhelming, but steady and warm, like a light that continues to shine no matter what surrounds it. It was a joy that came from knowing that the journey was no longer uncertain, but guided by a love that never loses its way. Type 1111 to receive miracles. The steps continued, each one bringing a deeper sense of peace and a stronger awareness of God's presence. There was no rush, no need to move quickly, only a steady and confident walk into something that had been prepared with care and intention. The world around did not suddenly change, but the way it was seen had completely transformed, turning ordinary moments into something meaningful and filled with quiet beauty. Even the smallest things carried a sense of purpose, reminding the heart that nothing is ever without meaning when God is involved. There was a realization growing stronger with each step, a clear understanding that the breakthrough was not a single moment, but a journey, a continuous unfolding of blessings and growth that would continue to shape the heart and life in ways that could not yet be fully understood. Jesus walks with those who trust him, not only in moments of joy, but in every step of the journey, guiding, protecting, and providing in ways that go beyond what can be seen. His love is constant, steady, and unchanging, offering strength in every situation and peace in every season. The door behind slowly faded from focus, not because it had closed with force, but because it was no longer needed. The person had moved forward, stepping into what had been prepared, leaving behind the uncertainty and fear that once held them back. There was no regret in leaving the past behind, only gratitude for everything that had led to this moment. Every lesson, every struggle, and every quiet prayer that had brought the heart to this place of peace and trust. God's timing had proven perfect once again, showing that what feels delayed is often being carefully prepared, and what seems uncertain is often leading to something deeply meaningful and full of purpose. Some are calling this one of the most remarkable wealth discoveries ever revealed. Newly uncovered CIA files describe a simple 7-second brainwave technique believed to help recondition the mind for prosperity and abundance. Supported by findings reportedly reviewed by 4 neuroscience research centers, this daily practice is attracting attention from people seeking financial breakthroughs. Many claim it helped them move from financial struggle to greater stability, freedom, and success. Information surrounding this technique is becoming harder to locate online. Click the link in the description and comments below before it is gone. The journey ahead remained open, full of possibility, and guided by a love that never fails, a love that continues to lead, support, and uplift every step of the way. There was no longer a need to look back, because everything that mattered was now ahead, unfolding in a way that felt both peaceful and powerful. There was no longer a feeling of being lost or uncertain, because the heart had found a place of rest within God's love, a place where fear no longer had control and doubt no longer held power. The person began to notice how even the smallest things carried a sense of purpose, as if every detail of life was being carefully arranged with care and intention. Jesus was leading in a way that felt natural and steady, not rushing or forcing, but gently guiding each step with patience that never fades. There was a quiet assurance that everything was moving in the right direction, even when the full picture could not yet be seen. This assurance was not based on visible proof, but on a deep and growing trust that had taken root within the soul. The heart that once felt heavy and burdened now felt lighter, as if something unseen had lifted the weight that had been carried for so long. It was not that life had become perfect, but that something within had changed, something that made every challenge feel smaller and every blessing feel greater. There is a special kind of strength that comes from walking closely with God, a strength that does not depend on circumstances, but flows from a deep connection with His love. The person began to understand that this strength had been growing all along, even during the moments when weakness felt overwhelming. The journey was no longer about searching for answers or trying to control every outcome, but about walking with trust, knowing that God was already ahead, preparing the way with care and wisdom that goes beyond human understanding. Each step felt supported, as if unseen hands were guiding and protecting from every side. There was a growing sense of purpose, not something loud or demanding attention, but something quiet and steady that filled the heart with meaning. It was a reminder that this journey was not just about receiving blessings, but also about becoming a source of light and hope for others who may still be walking through darkness. Type 1212 to claim miracles. The person began to notice how their presence started to bring comfort to others, not through words alone, but through a peace that could be felt even in silence. It was as if the love of Jesus was flowing through them, touching hearts in ways that could not be fully explained. God often transforms a heart not only for its own healing, but so it can become a place of healing for others. And that is what was happening, a quiet transformation that turned pain into compassion and struggle into understanding. There were moments when the past tried to return, bringing old memories or familiar feelings, but they no longer had the same power, because the heart had been filled with something stronger, something that could not be shaken. The love of God had created a foundation that stood firm, no matter what came or went. The path continued to open in gentle and meaningful ways, revealing new opportunities and new moments of growth that felt aligned with everything that had been unfolding. Nothing felt forced or out of place, because everything was happening in harmony with God's perfect timing. Jesus does not lead into confusion or fear, but into peace and clarity that grows stronger with every step taken in faith. And that peace was now a constant presence, a steady reminder that the journey was safe and guided by love that never fails. There was a quiet joy that continued to grow, not dependent on external circumstances, but rooted deeply in the understanding that God was present in every moment. This joy brought a sense of freedom, allowing the heart to move forward without hesitation or fear. The person began to see how the breakthrough was not just a single event, but a continuous flow of blessings and growth that would continue to unfold over time. It was a journey that would keep revealing new layers of God's love, new depths of peace, and new reasons to trust. There was no longer a need to rush or worry about what was ahead, because the heart had learned to rest in the present, knowing that each moment was being guided with care and purpose. This rest was not passive, but active, a deep trust that allowed every step to be taken with confidence and calm. God's presence remained constant, not distant or unreachable, but close and personal, guiding, comforting, and strengthening in every situation. Jesus was not just leading from a distance, but walking alongside, making every step feel supported and safe. The journey continued, not with uncertainty, but with a steady and growing faith that made everything feel possible. The door that once seemed so important was now behind, replaced by a path that stretched forward with endless possibility and promise. There was a deep understanding that this path would not always be easy, but it would always be meaningful, because it was guided by a love that never fails. And that love would continue to provide strength, peace, and direction in every step that followed. There was a sense of being held, not physically, but in a way that reached deep into the soul, bringing comfort that did not depend on circumstances or surroundings. It was the kind of comfort that only comes from knowing that God is near, that Jesus is present, and that nothing in this world can separate the heart from His love. The person began to notice how even the quietest moments carried a sense of presence, like a gentle whisper, reminding them that they were not alone, that every step was seen, and every thought was understood. This awareness brought peace, not just in moments of calm, but even in times when challenges appeared. For years, people have wondered why some individuals seem to attract wealth and opportunity more easily than others. Leaked CIA research may offer an unexpected explanation. A hidden 7-second mental exercise is helping ordinary people develop a stronger prosperity-focused mindset from home. Reports suggest that 4 neuroscience labs evaluated the process and observed unusual results. Users describe paying off debts, making long-desired purchases, and experiencing a greater sense of financial confidence. This information may not remain public for much longer. Click the link in the description and comments now to discover the technique before it disappears. There is a special kind of peace that grows when a heart learns to trust God completely, a peace that remains steady even when life does not feel easy or predictable. This peace had taken root deeply, becoming a source of strength that could not be shaken by fear or doubt. Jesus was guiding in a way that felt natural and steady, not through loud signs or sudden changes, but through a quiet inner knowing that gently led each step. The person no longer felt the need to question every direction, because trust had replaced uncertainty, and faith had become a natural part of every moment. The path ahead continued to reveal itself slowly, not all at once, but in ways that felt perfectly timed and deeply aligned with what the heart needed. There was no confusion, only a gentle clarity that made each step feel right and meaningful. The person remembered the times when waiting had felt unbearable, when silence had seemed like absence. Yet now, it was clear that those moments had been filled with unseen preparation. God had been working in ways that could not be seen, shaping the heart and arranging the path with care and wisdom. There was a deep sense of gratitude that began to grow, not just for the blessings that were now visible, but for the journey itself, every part of it, even the difficult moments that had once felt overwhelming. Each part had played a role in bringing the heart to this place of peace and understanding. Type Amen if you believe. The presence of Jesus felt closer than ever, not distant or unreachable, but near and personal, guiding, comforting, and strengthening with a love that never changes. There was no longer a feeling of being alone, because his presence filled every space with warmth and reassurance. The breakthrough continued to unfold, not as a single moment, but as a continuous flow of transformation and renewal that touched every part of life. It was not just about external change, but about a deep inner shift that made everything feel different, more peaceful, more meaningful, and more connected. The person began to see how their life was becoming a reflection of God's love, not in a way that sought attention, but in a quiet and genuine way that touched others without effort. There was a natural flow of kindness, patience, and understanding that came from a heart that had been deeply healed. God often uses healed hearts to bring healing to others, and this was now becoming a part of the journey, a quiet purpose that added meaning to every step. The person did not need to try or force anything, because what was within naturally flowed outward in a way that felt effortless and true. There were still moments of challenge, but they no longer brought fear or confusion, because the heart had learned to remain steady, trusting that God was present in every situation. Each challenge became an opportunity to grow, to trust deeper, and to experience God's faithfulness in new ways. The path continued to open, revealing new opportunities and new moments of growth that felt aligned with everything that had been unfolding. There was a sense of harmony, as if every part of life was coming together in a way that felt right and complete. Jesus does not lead into uncertainty, but into a deeper understanding of peace that grows stronger with every step. This peace had become a constant presence, guiding and supporting in ways that brought comfort and strength. There was a quiet joy that continued to grow, not loud or overwhelming, but steady and warm, filling the heart with a sense of contentment that did not depend on circumstances. This joy was rooted in the understanding that God was in control, and that everything was unfolding according to his perfect plan. The person no longer felt the need to look back with regret or forward with fear, because the present moment had become a place of peace and trust. Each step was enough, each moment was meaningful, and each breath carried the presence of God's love. The journey was not ending, but deepening, becoming more connected and more meaningful with every step. The breakthrough was not something that would pass, but something that would continue to unfold, bringing new layers of understanding, new experiences of peace, and new reasons to trust. There was a calm strength growing within, not loud or forceful, but steady and unshakable, like a strong foundation that holds firm no matter what rises around it. This strength was not created by effort or control, but by surrender, by allowing Jesus to guide every step and trusting that his way is always filled with purpose and peace. The heart that once searched for answers now rested in trust, no longer needing to understand everything, but simply believing that God was leading in the right direction. There was a freedom in that trust, a release from the need to control outcomes, allowing each moment to unfold naturally and gently. The person began to notice how even unexpected moments carried meaning, how even small interruptions or changes in plans seemed to align with something deeper. Nothing felt random anymore, because everything carried a quiet sense of purpose that could be felt rather than explained. Jesus was not just guiding the path, but shaping the heart along the way, turning past pain into compassion and past confusion into wisdom. Every experience had become a part of the journey, adding depth and understanding that made the present moment feel even more meaningful. There was a growing awareness that this journey was not meant to be walked alone, not because others were always present, but because God himself was always near, always guiding, always supporting in ways that could not be seen but could always be felt. This awareness brought comfort that stayed constant, no matter what changed around it. What if financial success has less to do with luck and more to do with a hidden signal within the mind? According to recently revealed information, a powerful brain frequency may help people recognize opportunities, increase focus, and attract greater abundance. Thousands are already exploring this technique and sharing surprising results. Click the link in the description and comments now to activate the wealth-focused brainwave today. The person felt a deeper connection to God than ever before, not through words alone, but through a quiet and steady presence that filled every part of life with peace. It was a connection that did not depend on circumstances, but remained strong even in moments of uncertainty.